everybody. So I get ready to go. Got to click this up. It will be a second. Welcome in, everybody. And, we got two screens going. Let's remove this one and put this one over here. It happened to me again. I was getting ready to roll, and I did not have the computer all the way plugged in, and it logged out. So right at the start here, just give me 1 little minute, and I'll have everything ready to go and locked and loaded, and everything should be just fine. But that's it. How can I avoid the technical problem in the future? Always run a check to see that it's just plugged in. Seems like I do that every time, but 2 times in the past year and a half, I have not. And you know what happened? It has unplugged and it has not worked. But I got the backup right here, which is good. And that's nice. It's good to see you, Moose. And I'm ready to talk about Michigan football. I got some questions for you. Certainly have one. I was going to wait just a second to throw it up there, but why not throw that question up there right now? The audio is not as crisp and clear as you might think, because although it sounds good in my head, I know that I'm using the microphone in this computer. That will all be fixed and as soon as this thing fires up, which I think is going to be, like I said, in about a minute. But we'll see about that, see if I'm correct or not. So I was just going to play. Michigan put out you might be familiar with them. They put out these, and other teams have done it. I've seen Wrigley Field, where they fly a drone through the clubhouse and then, all down through the stadium, and it's pretty sweet. And Michigan has actually put one out, and I was going to play it right at the start, right when everything didn't work. But it's pretty cool. They go flying down the tunnel, and then they fly around the stadium. They must, I would guess that maybe they did it a couple of weeks ago, but it's at nighttime. So they got the scoreboard fired up, and, they spin around the stadium. You take a look, and they've got I wasn't thinking of that myself. I don't know if you were thinking about how the stadium was going to look with the new scoreboard. You got the new lights is what's going on there, so it ends up looking pretty cool. But it's not cool is that, as soon as I said that, it looked like I was going to get what I wanted. What is not cool is it's just going to take me a minute to get this thing going up. So, yeah, I wanted to ask you what your favorite thing so far has been through 2 games. And that's the question for you. I'll answer that myself. I think that everybody would agree on almost the top thing. I think everybody would agree. And then it's, I guess, going to be up to your personal preference, after that. Yeah. So I ask you that question, and what has been your favorite thing so far? Let's see. Travis can't wait for tomorrow night. Yeah, Travis, I can't wait for tomorrow night either. You got Michigan in a night game. It's a little bit different of a menu. I went through, and we'll see if I can tell you the games. At noon, Penn State is going to Illinois. Minnesota's playing North Carolina, and then you do have Michigan State on Peacock for those that were like me and subscribed for a month. There might have been other ways to do it. That's the way I did it. And the only other thing that I was going to watch besides Michigan, I noticed that, on the 16th, Michigan State, it'll be a nice warm-up act for the Michigan Bowling Green game. So 5 o'clock. And then I didn't know that I would be interested in anything a little late night college football tomorrow night. But after the Michigan game, I will be doing a post game, but I am interested in Colorado and Colorado State. I've never watched, it's a rivalry if it's in state, obviously, but with Deion Sanders and company winning the first two games and then Jay Norvell taking a shot, he's, how did he sound? Paraphrase it. Something like, I take off my hat and sunglasses, now that I'm grown up. So, Colorado last week they were talking about Shedeur Sanders said that he was taking it personal with Nebraska, and now they are taking this game personal, and they're a big fat favorite in that game. So, how many times have you heard it through the years? If you need anything to get motivated in college football, I mean, what are you talking about? And yet, look at how things have worked. People are definitely taking things personally in the way it goes. You know what I'm taking personally? How long my computer took to fire up. I guess you get a different look of the studio here as I get the main frame going, if that's possible. I hope so. I think it will be. Let's see what people are saying about what they have liked the most. Moose saw the drone fly through. It was pretty sweet. Always exceptional points by Richard saying that I'm giving the description. And let's see, it's not as easy to scroll through with this particular computer. Steven says, will Michigan finally beat the spread? I have Michigan picked. I do a show coming up after this one where it's called Sharpening the Edge, where we pick games. And I have picked Bowling Green and the point. So it's been a fabulous season so far, Stephen, but I am picking Michigan to win the game 48-13. So I will take the 39.5. I would never want to take the 39.5. I would never bet. I say that, and then, maybe I would. Maybe I should stop saying I would never bet, against Michigan or for Michigan if I thought one of those situations where you think Michigan's going to win it anyways. But I know some people, like, their main thing would be, they wouldn't want to bet this one because, Harbaugh will take his foot off the gas. I don't really think that's true, although I do think there's a point to it. And I think if it came down to being like a minute left in the game, and let's say Michigan was up 35 and they moved it all the way down to the Bowling Green 20, Stephen, if Michigan was playing, I don't know, Michigan State, remember they were throwing the ball late against Michigan State and some Spartan fans were like, that's bad form. I've always been like, look, the backups need work too. If you're taking a knee on them or running out the clock, sure, you're not running up to score, but stop them. That's always been my thing. Go ahead and stop them. But you do know it ticks people off. Heck, Michigan basketball was pressing Wisconsin, late in that game a couple of years ago when Juwan and the Wisconsin staff got into it. But I do think, like, let's say it is down to the 20. Could I see a scenario with less than a minute, Michigan had a first down, where if it was another team that Michigan they might throw, they certainly would run and say, hey, get a touchdown. But could I see, because you had Leffler, Morrison, Soup, it's his dad's, BG is so special to the Harbaugh family. Could I see then Harbaugh just going, taking a knee, instead of maybe running one last play? Yes. So does that factor in? Just a little bit in some scenarios. I wouldn't let that be the overriding factor, but I think it can happen. All right. They want me to restore the pages. I'm going to say, yes, I absolutely want to do that, because then I can play and we can really get this thing going. I said it was going to be a minute, a minute, 10 minutes. Okay. I'm sorry. I do apologize. But, we with your regularly scheduled program, it should be ready to crank up right now. And without further ado, let's just see if that's going to work or not. I got to click a couple more buttons. Click a couple more buttons. So I'm going to click one. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, tomorrow, a little different. You got to wait all day long. Here we go. Let's put the mute now on that one so I don't have two things going on. I think I have to take this one down. Stay with me, folks. I don't really like that look, honestly. So let's take this one down. There we go. Hey, welcome into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Great to be with you. And, as something that could be kind of exciting, I'm going to put some of these slides up here. Now, yeah, here we go. Go Blue. Will Michigan finally beat the spread? I don't think so. As far as the other part that I was going to get to, let's rock and roll with that. Here it is. And let's hide that. And let's roll this. I described it, built it up, and now here it is. The drone fly-through to fire you up for the game tomorrow. Let's see if I can actually get it rolling. Check it out. I'll try it at the end if I'm going to be able to do that or not. All right. So what are we talking about today? Well, we do have a few things for your entertainment for Michigan. We'll see if Michigan's going to be able to get that running game flex going or not. You have some intrigue when Michigan, you say, well, you better be careful what you wish for, or, what you're planning on. We get that. I can plan for anything. It's a 40.5-point spread. Michigan should be able to get their backup quarterbacks in there, Jaden Denegal and then Alex Orji. And with those guys, considering what we saw from Davis Warren and Jack Tuttle, that the possibility that one of these guys with a really good showing, could they capture the backup quarterback job? I'm going to say yes. They certainly could be the third string. So, the possibility of QB2, I would think QB3 on the line, that's something that we'll talk about. Games of interest as well. We always like you to be there and play along at home. Hey, join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. In the season, all week long, you want to know what's going on with Michigan, things that everything. You're always thinking every angle from Michigan. You like to get in and talk about it 24 hours a day, all week, and you're able to do that by joining up. I'd like to see you over there. Go to michigan.rivals.com to be able to get it done like that. The particulars, we have known this for a while. 7:30, 40.5. Jake Butt will be in the house. The former Michigan tight end. Brooke Fletcher will make her way from Chicago. She worked at Bally Sports for a couple years. So see her down at the Pistons games all the time. She's the host of The Rally now. I think she's doing a pretty good job on that show. She'll be on the sideline. Let's go, man, with the lights fired up. Now, the running game flex is the number one thing that I think everyone wants to see. Now, you could say it's the offensive line. All right, you could say that, but I think everyone just wants to see the running game from last year and the year before go out there and smash. And Blake Corum, Blake Corum is pretty close to being the Blake Corum from last year. I put him at 95%. Donovan Edwards, 18 carries, 46 yards, 2.6 per carry. We know that he's better than that. He has caught 9 balls for 59 yards. But let's be, we always want to be honest. Donovan Edwards, if we're drawing it up here today for tomorrow night, I want to see explosive plays from Donovan Edwards. Do I have to see it? No, but that's what I want to see. What happened last year again, Ohio State's defense have taken off on a 75-yard run, on an 85-yard run. That's the kind of thing I want to see. And it wasn't just like there was a one-time thing. You'd say, it's just a one-time thing against Ohio State. Donovan Edwards came back the following week and had 25 carries for 185 yards against Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. So yeah, that's high on the list. Of seeing a flex in the run game. We've seen it in the past game. If Michigan was just bowling over their first two opponents, and JJ had only thrown like 10 times, and you didn't have any deep shots and everything, people would say, I want to see the passing game. We've been talking about this for 2 years, Michigan. And so it's just flipped now. That's the difference. It's different than it has been the last 2 years, where me and you were all clamoring for an explosive passing game. We've seen the explosive passing game. Now we wouldn't mind seeing an explosive running game. And so for that, let's see lightning and have a good day, get into the second half and see everyone else. Now, I ask you the question, the favorite things so far. I'll give you my answer, and then I'll go through the comments, and I'll be able to look at those. JJ being in the zone, for me, is number one. I think for you as well. In the first game, in the second quarter, I forget how many completions he had in a row. 15 completions in a row in the first half. He ended up throwing 3 touchdowns in the game, all to Roman Wilson. But you see it in sports. It's one of the things that you love as a sports fan. Just one of the great athletes in the game getting in the zone, and JJ in that first game was in the zone, and then he followed it up last Saturday where he looked like he was in the zone again, and he was throwing some of those passes. The one I played on Wednesday where he ripped it to Kojo, and Danielson was like, that's what the pro scouts want to see. They do. But when you look at the end zone, it wasn't a perfect spiral, even though he put it in there and put the shot right on Kojo exactly where you'd want. The ball actually wasn't picture perfect, the throw there, but JJ has been in the zone. Everybody now, you look across. Moose had mentioned Twitter, a lot of tape guys, film guys, the NFL draft guys. They're all like, "Oh, McCarthy," and then it started right after the game. I said, let's wait. Yet 2 games. He's been in the zone. Things look good. And then I'm getting ready to go on, and I see Rick Neuheisel after the game, and he's like, he reminds me of Joe Burrow in 2019. I'm like, okay, that's like the biggest, comp, the most, the greatest comp you could give JJ McCarthy, and I thought him being in the zone looks really good. No, it would be, he looks like 2019 Joe Burrow without Jamar Chase, without Justin Jefferson, but with Roman Wilson, who I also put on my list of, favorite things so far. Of course, Roman is ready to have a double-digit a touchdown season, and who knows how many touchdowns Roman Wilson can end up with. And then, you say 1, there's 2. I'm asking your favorite thing, and I've listed 3. And then this bottom one, you could say it's cheating because I have 2 with KG and MG. That is Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. To stay with the line of questioning, favorite thing so far, I could slip in there and say the defensive tackles, the guys inside. And I think that works. Although I don't know how many people are going to say, hey, you said favorite thing and you've listed 3, and then one of them you had 2. Guilty of that. All right, let's take some of the feedback and see where the people are at. and let's do it. Okay, I got to get all the way back up to the top. I got people talking about Division 2 games and all of that. And where were we? JP's back 2 days in a row, 2 shows in a row. Sorry. I am doing well. Travis, he's ready to He's ready to go. He's in there. People talking about the technology. Thanks for staying with us. Steven saying JJ's passing accuracy, definitely number one. Yeah, zeroing in on it. I just said JJ McCarthy being in the zone, but yeah, his accuracy, I think what you're saying is correct. The Moose canceled Peacock. I don't know, like, could you? I thought you could only get it for the least amount that you could have got it for was 1 month. Did you cancel because you didn't want to threaten taking it towards the end of the month and then have to pay for 2 months? I get it. And you're like, screw Michigan State. I don't want to watch them anyways. I actually watched Penn State, West Virginia later that day. I was like, hey, if Peacock had 2 football games that I was interested in every Saturday, I might buy it for another month. But there you go. JP's favorite thing so far is seeing the passing game come to life in game. What would make me even happier? Dennis going back to 5 days a week during the season. Hey, I'm glad you're asking about that. It makes me think that people want me to do more shows. That's better than somebody coming in and saying, you look like you never have anything to talk about. We could talk about Michigan every day during a championship season. You know that. Let's do it. Travis is saying that Ferris State at Montana could be the game of the day. I'll take your word for it, Travis. If that game was on tonight, like I know tonight, I'm planning on watching Maryland. Maryland at the Big Ten ACC thing going on, and it's Virginia, and I'm going to watch the Terps. And I watched them on the 60-minute playback on BTN, and it was Wednesday. Somebody was saying, hey, Charlotte gave them a pretty good game. Charlotte came out and scored like in the first 2 minutes, like boom, boom. And it was like, oh, wow. Now I see why people are saying this about Maryland. But so if the game was on tonight, the problem is like, sure, there might be great high school games, but, I can only, and I like a lot of sports. And college football is my favorite. I'm going to watch Penn State, Illinois over Ferris State. I don't even know if that game's on TV. It could be. Here's the Michigan man saying that Deion, being a grown man, worrying about what other coaches think about him is funny. He needs some sensitivity classes. I would disagree with that. I think that coaches getting upset about other coaches and using it for fodder and firing up their team, always trying to give them an angle. What we have seen, I don't do this myself, and I don't know how many other people do, but what I have noticed is that incredible athletes, they seem to get really worked up about the smallest little thing. Tom Brady, all of the quarterbacks that went in front of him, he noted all of those quarterbacks. And it just goes on and on and on. Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions. So was he picked in the 3rd or 4th row? Wherever he was picked, he's got a list. He knows all of the wide receivers that were picked in front of him. And he takes that personally. Jordan, he takes that personally. Draymond Green, you got to take it in the 2nd round. He knows and can recite it 1 through 30, all of the players that were taken in front of him. Coaches do the same thing. I can remember, I don't know, it's been over the last 10 years, but Tom Izzo, I would hear the Michigan State coach crying about something about like a message board poster. Well, it was like, he actually said this. It was 6'5" Spartan was saying something about one of my players. And, he just went on. And I'm thinking, Tom, you're talking about an unnamed. like, hey, like, look, if you had your name down there and said, hey, Tom, I'm, graduated from Michigan State. I think that, your player's a big jerk, whatever it was. This was a unnamed poster, and Tom Izzo's over there, and I'm protecting my kids. And I'm thinking, what is with this guy? And you know what it is that the coaches, accomplished coaches, and great players, they all do it. So Dion is using whatever he can. That's why it was personal last week, and that's why it'll be personal tomorrow night. So all of the people that say that stuff doesn't matter, okay, it doesn't matter to you and me, but it matters to great players, and it matters to great programs and coaches. We have seen it over and over again. So that's it. Always a good point by Richard, who says it's time for the new MacBook with maize and blue paying for it. You know what? I thought you were talking about my wife, her, what was it? Be the name she goes by on Twitter is Maisie Blue. So I thought you said with Maisie Blue paying for it. I'm like, she pays for everything anyways, but no, Maize and Blue, the Maize and Blue review. I got you. Thought you're like, knew my wife for a second. I don't know. This computer, I love it. I remember when I got it, I went for the larger size screen because I wanted that. And I wanted the touch screen. And I used to take it to games and I would set it up in the concourse. I'd set it up on press row and people would be like, whoa, you got a big computer. And I'd be like, yeah, you're damn right. I got a big computer. But somewhere along the line, I dropped it a few times, and it is a little, it's not perfect. I think your point about maybe it's time for something new is correct. Although, the fitting that just gets unplugged, I could have the very best computer. You just have to, keep it plugged in. You know what I'm talking about? A 45 zip prediction. And that's not a cover. Like that could be, oh wait, that would be a cover because the spread's 39.5. There you go. Richard is 3-0 on his way to the 15-0 prediction. I like, is it Tony Anise? Is that I think their coach is a fabulous coach. I'm surprised he hasn't moved on and tried something else. So there you go. Go Dogs. Also, we don't want to show our hand for future opponents. Could be another reason that Michigan, dumb things down. And, I don't want to say I like gambling as much as the next person because I'm not sure that's true. I used to always, I don't know if I prided myself, but I used to always think like before gambling became legal, a lot of my friends still gambled. And my dad was a big gambler. And I always thought, I like the sport enough where I can still tune into any game and I don't need to gamble on it. Then gambling came legal and I'm like, well, let's fire up a couple bets and see. And, it's a lot of fun. I got to admit, it's a lot of fun. The first year or two, I was taking it without betting barely anything. I was getting too aggravated. Even losing $1 on a game, I would be turning it off. And then I thought, wait a second. I don't really care. I mean, like, I'd like to win the $1, but don't turn off the game. Why am I? So I just like to have a lot of fun with it. Last night, I was having a little fun with it, taking the Minnesota Vikings plus 6.5 in the first from kickoff to when Justin Jefferson was going to score a touchdown, and then the Eagles came down and kicked a field goal. I'm like, loser. Some late touchdowns by the Vikings and a backdoor cover in the last minute of play. Usually, like people that bet on the Eagles last night, that's where you're like, I want to quit gambling. You felt like you had the right side. You felt like Minnesota really didn't have a whole lot. They wouldn't be able to stop them. And you were correct. And then there you go, the 6.5 points, and you ended up cashing. That was, I felt a little embarrassed to be able to look at my, to collect the winnings from that game. I was actually shocked because when DeAndre Swift scored, I turned it off. And that's it. To my surprise, Minnesota came back and scored late. One thing about that game, and I made this prediction last year, and somebody mentioned it since the start of this year. I think it was game one where JJ fumbled that ball, towards the end of the fourth quarter against East Carolina. The wedge that Jalen Hurts uses, he's got Kelsey, an all-pro center, and Hurts is as strong as they come. And I wondered if Michigan has the Alex Orji wedge, because I don't know how strong J.J. McCarthy is, but just looking at him, just sizing him up, Orji, his legs look like he could be like, Blake Corum or he just looks really strong. He looks like he's muscle bound, he's a load to bring down. We all know that. But Orji looks like in the wedge behind Drake Nugent. Seems like, and then pushing from behind, it would work really well for Michigan. Orji and a bunch of different things, short yardage, but with the wedge, I don't know if you watched the Thursday night game last night, but so they've got a fourth or they got a goal line situation, and Hurts runs the wedge. It's coming. They're all packed in there. Minnesota knows it's coming. We all know it's coming, and they score a touchdown. But then they come up and they say, oh, okay, Minnesota called the timeout. Minnesota calls the timeout. They go back there. They know it's coming again. Everybody's all lined up in there. Everybody's jammed in there. And Hurts does it again. Later on in the game, there's a 4th and 1 or something, and they're in the wedge, and it was coming, and they did it again. They said during the game, it was Herb Street, the color analyst, he had some of the statistics. I think one time since Hurts has been trying the wedge, it hasn't worked. It works. It's a great play. Remember we were talking about, you really need to have your play that you're going to have out there to get 1 yard. 2 years ago, if Michigan needed a yard or two, they'd give it to Hassan Haskins. Last year, if Michigan needed a yard or two, they'd give it to Blake Corum. Yeah, they were Khalil Mullings was in the mix there. How about I predict that, I haven't seen other teams. It's the part where Richard said, saving things. I don't know if you need to save it. Get Orji out there and run that wedge if it's a 4th and 1. It works every time. If you have a super strong quarterback, remember Hurts was squatting 600 pounds, and when he was at Alabama, I was like, wow. So you need a super strong quarterback, and I think Orji's the strongest, low base, and then you need a great center. And I can remember 2 weeks ago or so when Chris Jenkins was down at Schembeckler, and he was talking about, someone asked him, because Jenkins is on the freak list. They do that. I forget what it's called, where they take the bar and they just lift it up over their head, a Swedish lift or something, whatever it's called. But Jenkins said, man, Nugent, he's a freak. He's just in there like doing pull-ups left and right. He's a tank. Get behind that tank with Orji. You want to know what Michigan's best 4th and 1 call is? It's Orji in the wedge. That's my guess. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's get through here. And let's take some more feedback. JP says he cannot believe producer Penny was not ready with the updates. We need to talk her through. I thought she was the GOAT. Yeah, Penny is more like outside support. Unfortunately, my producer, Richard, from last week, you'd have to go back and watch the last week's show. He is no longer with us. He has moved on. Richard, great day tomorrow. He's taking his grandson to the Sarasota Zoo and then watching the Michigan game in the evening. Now, come on. That sounds great. That sounds great. No more Warren. Yeah, I don't know, like, is Davis Warren number 2? Davis Warren through fall camp had earned the chance to be the number 2 quarterback. I mean, he has been out there the last 2 games, first one in after J.J. McCarthy, but can we say that that's up for grabs? I feel like I feel like for me that's up for grabs. I mean, Tuttle, nothing against him. He got hurt, and I don't know exactly if he would be ready to go or not. And so you're thinking that he's the third string, even though Hart was supposed to put Denegal in before Tuttle last game. The pecking order: McCarthy, Davis Warren, Jack Tuttle, Jaden Denegal, Alex Orji. It feels like, even though, so what are we talking about? 4th and 5th string guys that, with a fine showing, they could be up to 2 or 3. That's good to hear. Moose wants to talk a little bit. Harbaugh admitted they made a mistake. That's right. He admitted that it was the head coach in the second half made the mistake. Wolverine fan 2 says he can see Brady, Howard, Woodson, Braylon Edwards, and so many great players walking through that tunnel with the winged helmet. Boy, I'm really far behind. You're right. All the OGs should be at tomorrow night's games. The Moose says he thinks Edward isn't 100%. I think his injury is still lingering. Yeah, I don't know, Moose. I mean, like, you think that because he just hasn't been running like the Donovan Edwards from last year. Like, you think that his hand injury is lingering? You think that what he had cleaned up in his knee and they said, well, was 100%? That's what you think. I think that it takes time. Go back through Wednesday's show where I talked about it for 20 minutes. When you're coming back from injury, it takes time. When you're a running back and you don't get hit, it takes time. When you're a running back, you need to get calloused. You need to get hit. And he did not get hit in fall camp. So I think it takes time. You thinking that he's injured would be, I think, probably incorrect, I would think. I don't know. But that's it. Wolverine fan wants to see Orji run the first string, run the normal offense with maybe a few more pull in the runs and some passing. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, here's the thing. Like, you want to put him in a situation with the first string. Do you want to get into the first quarter and just say, hey, we're going to put the guy that is, let's see, first, second, third, fourth. You want to put Wolverine fan 2, the 5th string let me get this right. 5th string quarterback with the first string offense in the first half for more than a play, for some pin pulls and some runs. The only way that I could see that happening is if it was a short yardage situation and Michigan, like, everyone knows, like, that Orji is a tank and that, we saw it in the spring game 2 years. We saw it in both spring games. He's tough to bring down. He delivers the hits. He could be a superb short yardage guy. And so they don't really want to run JJ against Bowling Green. Could they show that to opponents? Could they work that out if they got down in a short yardage situation? That's the only way. But no, I don't want to see the 5th string quarterback in the first half or with the first string unless it's a short yardage situation. So there we go. Moose is making the point that Harbaugh said that they wanted to be 50-50, and so far they've been right down the middle. I agree with that. So far they have been. Richard's favorite thing is that Michigan is being alive while Michigan is on top. It's such a great feeling. Excellent point, Richard. Some other seasons that you didn't think, held the promise, but then it keeps going. This season holds great promise. The program, you hope, this is what you hope. This is what you dream about. This is where, it's so difficult to have the head coach, the quarterback, the rest of the team, everything going. Michigan has it all lined up. It's right there in front of them. Guarantees nothing, but it makes you, it does. It makes you feel really good about being fan. Denical reminds OT of John Navarre or Wilton Spate. Well, he is taller. Question is, do you think a quarterback of that caliber could keep Michigan competitive until Underwood is ready to play? Well, what about Jaden Davis? I don't know. Like, so these guys, like Jaden Davis is coming in. And if we were just going on the recruiting rankings, I know Davis has fallen down a little bit in the eyes of some of the experts, but I haven't seen enough of Jaden Denical or Alex Orji. And as great as Bryce Underwood looks, if you go back and maybe we could do this, like Underwood is the number one quarterback. Let's go back to the last 10 years and put the number one quarterback. And we'll maybe put the top three or just the number one, or let's just do it in rivals. I'll try to do that. I would guess that more of the number one quarterback in the last 10 years has not worked out than has worked out. So, well, yeah, there's probably a couple of them like, ooh, yeah, look at old so-and-so. Burrow was number one. Sure. There are probably a couple in there that are like, yeah, but, you get Joe Burrow. It's a little too early for that. That's what I would say. I don't know. I don't. Let's see. OT is just assuming that he's going to commit. BN is saying Peacock has a couple of okay shows on it. Give it some time. Give some of those a shot, then cancel it. Well, in addition to watching Michigan and East Carolina, then Penn State, West Virginia, and I'm going to be running Michigan State and Washington on there. So I already got 3 games. I'm a fan of Downton Abbey, the long series. My mom lived in England for 10 years. I lived over there for a couple of years when I was in my 20s. I love England. I like it. It reminds me of North Yorkshire. That's where and they've got one of those shows on there. So there it is. BN and MJ used to make stuff up just to have an edge. Famous story about him saying that a guy said, "Nice game, Mike," after a Bulls loss. The guy actually never said anything to him. I believe it. I'm not a superior athlete or anything, but I do know when I was shooting jumpers or just playing the game, and if somebody was friendly to me, I might be playing well, but let's just say I took a shot and somebody could have been guarding me, somebody else, it could have been from the other team on the sideline, said off or he'll miss it, anything like that. It screwed it fired me up. I always played better if that was going to happen. And then I loved shooting shots after that, making it and saying, I thought you said that was off. What do you mean? So I think we all like to do that. Moose coming back. He's asking if I know how many coaches or media have talked bad about Harbaugh. He doesn't care. That's the difference between him and Dion. You see Jim getting sensitive and saying it's personal. Comparing Harbaugh to Dion that way, I've got news for you. All of the stuff that people would say, do you remember Jim Harbaugh coming out? Do you think he just lets that roll off his back? I remember him taking to Twitter and calling Paul Feinbaum Pete Feinbaum. You don't think his players, you don't think he's using some of that? I don't know what other media members, but, Feinbaum has made part of his career about going against Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh went right back at him. So this, I think, is actually incorrect. I know that he might not say it like this, but you're saying that he doesn't care, LOL. I would say he absolutely does care, LOL. But it's all perception. I mean, like, hey, how you feel about it and everything else. Doug says, I love that our receivers are catching and holding onto the ball. I hope that didn't jinx them. Well, luckily for you, Doug, I don't believe in things like jinxes with the team and things like that. I know there's a lot of people that do, but I don't. I'm not a knock on wood kind of person or anything else. There you go. What did I call it? The Swedish lift, the Turkish get up. P. Maximus. Why is Mr. Brightside our football anthem at the stadium? Why different from the jump around at Wisconsin in the fourth quarter? Well, it was just a few years ago, and they put it out there, and the students really seemed like it became a sort of ballad that they liked, and it caught on. Who's to say? What catches on and what doesn't, and everything else. I don't mind it. I think it's a good song. It works for me. I like jump around myself. And should Michigan, they went their own, they found their own, and it stuck. So why? They try a lot of different songs, and this one just stuck. I'm not exactly sure which song this is, but the one I like the most is where you just start going like this, da 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 da, da and you just move your hands, and then it just keeps like picking up steam, and it seems like at the end everybody's going crazy. And there's something like this involved to it, and if you're listening on the pod, something like da 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 da. I love it. I loved it when the alumni band leader John Wilkins back in the day used to do it from he would come in and take over for the band, and he would do it at bat, and he was just so into it. It was great. Andres, good thing that you showed up a little bit late. The first 10 minutes of the show were me working on the computer and not able to talk and all those kind of things. So it's good to have you in here. All right. Moose is saying that he's not buying it. Oh, somebody was saying that another site was saying Colorado is in the lead. Underwood loves Michigan and our staff. He lights up every time he's asked about Michigan. The January 6th, that's a long time. I do think what you say is correct. I do think that he likes Michigan. I do think that he likes the staff. I do think that his family. He's been up here a million times. I also think that, LSU is still in the mix. And, he just went out to Colorado. As we have talked about before, Boulder is a beautiful place, and going out there and Coach Prime does have some charisma. I know there's a lot of people that, I think that Colorado and what they've done in the first 2 weeks of the season, they're the number one story. There's no argument. It's like by a million miles, it's the number one story in college football. I think it's great so far for 2 weeks, but a lot of people can't handle it. They can't handle Coach Prime. They can't handle the way that he does things. They think that everybody's getting way out in front of it and everything else. We all get way out in front of everything. So I'm just enjoying it. I don't know. I don't think Coach Prime is, taking Colorado to the college football playoff. I don't know anything about that. It's been the number one story, and it's been a nice story. And, Deion Sanders and what he's doing and the way that his son's playing, and it looks like they've got the possibility of having a generational type Charles Woodson type player. Those things are all really cool. I'm not hating on that. Could I see how a young, impressionable, what's Bryce Underwood, 17 years old, would go out there and be like, damn. Could he like Colorado? Could they be have a chance at him? How do you know? I know. He does seem to light up. 42-10. That's not covering. Old Vince, who gave us the nice countdown all the time during the offseason. He's asking us how we're feeling about the season goal so far. I'm still feeling confident this team is superior to any team in the Big Ten. Any concerns we have will be squared away by Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. Yeah, well, if we compare Ohio State has, like, in years past when Ohio State had to have a new quarterback and they had him in the game. I remember Justin Fields, the first game. I watched him and I was just like, wow, like it just keeps happening every time they put somebody in, and it just every quarterback all down through the years right away looked great. Now, McCord has not looked great right off the bat, and Ohio State's offensive line has not looked great right off the bat. And so, it's different. Ohio State does not look like the Ohio State in years past. It's a long way to go. So, but Michigan has looked their offensive line and running game. I put grades on. I did this right before I came on. I should have been checking the connection to my computer, but I said, if I had to just give an A, B, C, D, or E to all of the different units, what would I do? Because sometimes you get away like, oh, C plus, B minus. I didn't do that. I gave the defense I gave the defensive line, the edge, the cornerback, the safeties, I gave them all A's across the board for defense. On special teams, you break it up, punt coverage, kickoff coverage, all those different things, kickoff return, punt return. A punt return, there have been some, interesting situations in there where there've been some hidden yardage and everything. I gave it a C. But then, in place kick, I gave a B. So overall, I gave special teams a B. With it, with place kicking and punt return. But, come on. I'm giving it a B. I'm not giving it a C. I'm giving it a B. On offense, I give the quarterback and wide receivers an A. So tight end, I feel like this is me being a tough grader. I'm not giving them an A. They seem like they blocked really well, and Loveland's done, a pretty decent job. I think there's more there for them, so I gave them a B. I gave the tight end position a B. The offensive line and running game, I gave the offensive line a B. Pass blocking, I gave them an A. Run blocking, I don't know whether it's you want to say that's not true, or this is my opinion. I gave them a C. I think there's a lot of room there for them to come together in the running game, so I gave him a C. But overall, if I just had to go offensive line, it's a B, which leads me to the running backs. I gave Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards a C. I don't know what they would give themselves. I mean, Corum scored, 4 touchdowns, and he's had some bursts in there, but he's not quite 100%, 95%. And then, I'm expecting Donovan Edwards to look like Donovan Edwards. And that's the one. That's the one thing that's sticking out. The run game. I want to see a big flex for the run game. Let's go to Antoine. Let's see. Antoine is saying, when you're at the sports media conference at Michigan, do you think you subconsciously implant ideas in the coach's head when you ask certain questions as far as play calling? I think the coaches who work so many hours that they get prepped for the kind of questions that they're going to get asked. I think that they know everything where they are at. I remember talking with Lloyd Carr back in the day, and, Carr, I would say, hey, so-and-so said this, so-and-so. He's like, the head coach's job is just to answer like your fans. And that's what the media's job is too. They ask the questions that the fans have. And so they know what questions are coming. It's interesting because as much as they grind out, and I don't know how many hours they put in, it seems like 80, 90 hours, they're there till midnight. They're sleeping in the office. They're getting up at 5:00. And like, maybe they're working smarter, not, the long hours anymore. And there's ways, getting rest, all that stuff is probably good. But I always think like that there would be a coach that could be driving in his car and he could be listening to sports talk, and somebody could come on and it'd go, let's go to Antoine. And Antoine starts saying, finally the route trees and the slants and it like, just get something in the coach's mind. Maybe. I know that back when I worked in Ann Arbor, there was a quarterback that used to listen to Ann Arbor Sports Talk when I was on, and his name was Tom Brady. And his roommate, Aaron Shea, said this a few years afterwards. We were talking with him, and Aaron Shea said, I don't know why Tom would do it, but he would be listening to sports talk, and the callers would be like, I want Henson. And truth be told, I was saying that I want Henson. I said, look, Tom's only going to be around for another year. They've lost the first 2 games of the season. Let's put in Henson. I said it all the time. Most of the callers agreed with me. Aaron Shea used to say, Tom, it fueled his fire, listening to it, what they were saying about him. He didn't have the arm strength, which I used to say. He, was a fabulous leader and everything else, but he just didn't have, he was not as dynamic of a QB as Henson. So let's give Drew Henson, who's the future, the snaps. I don't know if that answers your question or not. It's weird to, think about that sometimes, but I think that sometimes they want to show these fans, like maybe they think that Donovan Edwards, he's been running crazy in practice and, he's just missed a few, and that, they feel very confident that it's just going to be a matter of time, like this Saturday or next Saturday. But, he hears, the coaches hear them all saying, what about the run game? What about the run game? And, the numbers are there to look at as well. So that's it. Okay. Couple more things that we have for you here, and that would be the menu for this week. And this is how I'm going to do it. Tomorrow at noon, I'll be watching Penn State and Illinois. Coming up at 3:30, the Gophers taking on the Tar Heels. You got May, who is expected to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks. I like watching that. Plus, he's playing the Gophers, who Michigan's going to play. Could I see myself taking a nap potentially? Like, watch the first game, get Minnesota, North Carolina, go horizontal on the couch while I'm watching it and thinking, let me get a pillow here. Let's just see what happens. Maybe. Peacock. This will be this game could spill in. It almost, I think, is going to be perfect, isn't it? 2.5 hours. No, we want to see Washington tack on a couple late. I'll have 2 TVs going, but then the main attraction, Michigan Bowling Green, and then I will be doing a post game afterwards. But I enjoy, call me names, do whatever you want. You're just part of the problem with the hype machine. I like watching Colorado so far this year. I mean, I didn't watch them week 1. Michigan was on the same time TCU was. But last week, I watched all of Colorado, Nebraska, and I enjoyed it. And it is the number 1 story in all of college football. So I'll be checking that out again. So that's it. A couple more here. A reminder coming up in a half hour. All those games there, I'll be picking them on Sharpen the Edge. We'll do that live. MB saying, the rest of the Pac-12 is tired of Prime. How are they going to look if they let him win the conference in his first year? Yeah, it's a long ways away. Here's Moose predicting that Hunter will be injured by midseason with 100+ plays. Sandra still doesn't want that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. How many plays? And maybe Prime will find some spots like tomorrow night if they get up big, not to play Hunter so many snaps. But he's also 20 years old. 20 years old is fine. Surprised I hadn't seen more of that. Richard, I'm right. BN says I'll be taking a nap watching Penn State. I think this is true. And take a walk instead. Dennis, the headphones work. I'm coming back from my calf injury. It's almost been a month. I was out there today taking those first steps. I like Richard getting that walk going. It was real chilly this morning. I was out there. Tomorrow, I would like to be back to 4 miles and out there walking, but I think I don't want to rush back into it, but it's not a bad idea. You go out, maybe listen to a game instead of watching 12 hours of football with a nap in there, working a little, mowing the grass or something. That's already taken care of. Clean out the goat barn. Maybe I'll take you up on that. Clean the goat barn thoroughly tomorrow during Minnesota and North Carolina. That's going to do it. Hey, tomorrow night after the game on this very feed, I'll be live with Jim Scarcelli. We'll be talking about what we saw between Michigan and Bowling Green. You can access that anytime after the game, whether it's on the podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, or naturally on YouTube. If you're watching this right now, that'll be there as well. And then we'll be here Monday to talk all about it at 2:00 with a little film analysis. And then it'll be Big Ten week. This thing's going. Thanks so much, everybody. Sorry for that beginning of the show. I'm always going to check that plug. If it happens again, I don't know. What am I going to buy everybody a hot dog or something? I feel bad. But thanks for staying with us. We'll talk with you tomorrow night after